Hey friends, fighting is about fighting number 10. I don't know if Mark left it in or not, but you clap at the beginning of a thing, and I smoked the tip of my pinky on my wedding ring. Like seriously, like it's totally painful. I hope that's not a bad sign. We got our friends over here who are on Periscope, which you can get to from Twitter somehow. I'm still learning about this kind of stuff. Fighting is about fighting. It's fun. This was the very first thing we ever did, right? Yep. Yeah, very first thing Mark and I ever did together on our YouTube channel was Fighting is About Fighting 1. And we called it that despite the fact that it's pretty much the only thing on the YouTube channel where we don't talk about fights because of the concept that you fight for everything. And learning about fighting and learning about the martial arts teaches and informs your life. And then the things we learn in life teaches and informs how we look at the martial arts. And it's a cool little push and pull between life and martial artistry. And so this kind of open-ended podcast style chat, and we've now done 10 of them, we intended to kind of follow our progression from white belts who knew nothing about making YouTube things and Instagram lives and Twitter live. There's a camera over there. To being able to share ideas and share the things that we love about fighting. And I guess I have friends and people that support the work that we do that are interested in the journey and the path and stuff, which is so cool. And so it started out, we thought that this podcast together, would be a little bit of the journey of what Mark and I are trying to do and what we're trying to achieve and the way that we're trying to share our philosophies on fighting and life and all these things. But it's also become kind of a little vlog of the adventures that we're having. So I know a lot of people were hanging out with me on Instagram Live. I'm Robin Black MMA on Instagram, or I mean Instagram in general and stories over the last few weeks. It's been a long few weeks. I'm just back. About 16 days ago, I got on a plane and I was going to New Jersey. I work for a company in Korea called Monster Gym. And they are a health, supplement, fitness, basketball, bodybuilding, baseball, MMA hub. And I'm very fortunate to work with them. I like them very much. I've learned a lot working with them. And so myself, Mr. Kim, who owns that company and is the leader, and a woman named Sky Song, you can find her on Instagram, and she's a very fascinating young fighter. She fights for ONE FC. She's a young Korean fighter. We traveled to New Jersey, and one of the jobs, so what they brought me on to do is a number of different interviews, and as they call it, content. I think content's a weird word. Really, that's what it's called. What this is right now, that's what apparently this is called. But you can call it chats, hangs, analysis, music, movies, whatever. That's the catch-all phrase. So we were going to make that. And I talked to Cub Swans a few weeks ago. I was in Korea, or a few months ago. I was in Korea some weeks back, and I talked to Do Ho Choi and the Korean Zombie, both who are injured, but I think some of that footage and some of those chats and analysis that we have, that'll be coming out. And I'll let you know when and where through Monster Gym. So now we were going to go down, and we were going to chat with Mark Henry, who is a brilliant boxing and MMA coach. And people in Korea are very aware of him, probably through Conor McGregor's fights and through Eddie Alvarez, Frankie Edgar, and so forth. So that was one of the jobs to start this long trip that I had. So we got to New Jersey, immediately shared ideas with Mr. Kim and Sky, and it was great. And it turned out that Mark had a bit of a family emergency. So we're like, oh man, we won't interview. Totally understood, obviously. People's families are priority. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a tank top, it is very hot in here today. Very hot. It's hot in Toronto. So just shortly after that, I get a text on my phone. It's like, hey, Robin, it's Frankie. I'm like, oh shit, it's Frankie Edgar. I didn't have his number. He's like, hey, Mark asked me to pass this on to you. He's not available. And so I said, well, send him our condolences for anything that's happening with his family and so forth. He's good, by the way, and his family's good. And then I said, well, I'm here with this after we dealt with the realities of life. Later, I said, I'm here with my crew from Korea, and we are doing other business, but could we interview you? And Frankie's like, no problem, man. Come on out to Tom's River, which was about an hour and a half, and it was cool. Like this was Jersey, man. And so we went to Frankie's gym, which was so Frankie Edgar. And I think this interview, I mean, the Doo-Ho Choi one's still coming, and the Korean Zombie one's still coming, so Frankie might be a little ways away, although he did talk about obviously Max Holloway and Jose Aldo and stuff, so it's current. But Frankie was wicked, and Frankie is a wicked dude. Really cool guy. His house was like 2 blocks from his gym. His gym was just old mats kind of layered up on each other with duct tape, and it's awesome. This is an old school wrestling gym, 1 punching bag in the corner. We had a great chat. And he showed Sky some things, striking to the takedown. It was awesome. Learned a lot from Frankie about class too, not just about what he was showing that day, but class. He welcomed us and just left the gym open. He's like, don't even worry about it. Just leave whenever you're ready. I live around the corner. Because nobody in Tom's River is going to fuck with Frankie Edgar. What, is somebody going to break in there and like steal his pads? No. So he was like couldn't have been cooler. And same with Mark. And I want to thank them both for being so cool with us. So then with my team with Monsters Inc., I want to be able to contribute as much as possible. They've been very, very great with me, and I've learned a lot, and I traveled to Korea and we're exposed to so many cool things. So I wanted something that's very important to them as they're expanding into North America with their MMA content, but also with other sports and athletic stuff, is digital. The whole world right now, whatever you do, digital is the most important thing. And the fact that I was thrust into this world and seeing it, I had no idea. But you look, as less and less people are consuming things the old way, just Instagram itself, just people on Instagram moving through it, is taking attention away from movies and music and TV and billboards and advertising. And the deeper you get in it, the more imperative it is. And I mean, if you work in lawn supplies or you work in dentistry or whatever, visit Ireland, it says here on my thing. Cheers. I would love to visit Ireland. For those of you listening on YouTube or SoundCloud, I have Twitter Live, Periscope up over here as well. And I glanced at it, and somebody said visit Ireland, which I would love to do. But yes, digital is all important. So I've connected with somebody named Gary Vaynerchuk. Like 75% of you is like, holy shit, Gary Vaynerchuk. And then the other 25% of you are like, I have no idea who that is. But Gary Vaynerchuk has become a guru. I'm sure he doesn't like that word. He is an expert in digital marketing, media, web, social media, and his company, Vayner Media, in New York City, New York, Midtown, they're on the forefront of it. They're on the forefront of digital media and so forth. Yes, he is a total go-getter. And they're on the top, the front end of it. So big companies are hiring them because right now, I don't care what it is you do, whether you're the UFC or you are, the University of South Carolina or you make clothing, this shift is happening so quickly that you have to exist in this paradigm or you don't exist at all. So anyways, my friends from Korea, I brought them over, and Gary was good enough to let me have some time with his creative team over Skype some months back, and I brought Mr. Kim and the Monsters Inc. people to meet a couple guys from Andy and Sid from Gary's creative team, and we had a cool chat and we learned a lot. But man, that place is hopping. This is the hub of where the digital change, the shift from the old media to the new media is happening. And if you are not on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube like we are here, or making podcasts, or taking pictures, or creating some type of art and sharing it, your business doesn't exist. And if it does, it won't soon. This is where everything is happening. Everything. There's hundreds of people that will connect just on this phone And this is where it's happening. So I brought my friends who are in the sports and fitness business and are very fascinated in that down to meet them. And it was a really inspiring and interesting place to be. And if you don't already follow Gary Vaynerchuk, follow him. He's a fascinating guy. It'll help give you insight into the changes that are happening in our world. And so that was cool. Then I met a great artist that day. We had a great day in New York City. Then we got on a plane together and we flew to Los Angeles, where I was going anyways because I had some UFC stuff to do. Now, I'll use the term audition. I'll just use it because I've used it before. However, when I was sharing what I was doing and the fact that I was interested in and pursuing a larger role with the UFC, I didn't realize that that sort of thing is generally confidential. So all I'm going to tell you is it went very well, but and I had a great time, and it's cool, and I don't have any answers yet. These things take time, but I'm only addressing that because I mentioned it before, and everybody knows I'm excited, and everybody knows that ultimately anybody, well, everybody, most people have no idea who I am or what I do. So when people use the term everybody, that's a little presumptuous. But anybody who follows or knows me knows that my goal is to commentate the UFC one day. I'm driven to do that. And so I'm pursuing that. And it's starting, it's going well. It's been going well. So anyways, I was going to LA for that purpose, and I thought, let's meet with Audi Attar, who is Conor McGregor's manager, Michael Bisping's manager, Chris Weidman's manager, not Luke Rockhold, it's Chris Weidman. And and again, I had Mr. Kim and the team and Sky. So we went and met Audi, and he couldn't be a cooler guy. You've probably seen him do some interviews and stuff. Gave me a lot of insight into what I'm chasing and how, and feedback on my work and great stuff, really great. Then I had my UFC meetings, which went very well. I hope to update you next time we're sitting here. And then I flew to Montreal, and this was fascinating. So I'm working for TSN. If you're Canadian, I'm sorry I'm making a bunch of squishing sounds on the chair. If you are Canadian, you know that TSN is basically, as some people would put it, Canada's ESPN. It's called The Sports Network, and it's the biggest by far. So I've been working for TSN, and they brought me in to do a half-hour-long documentary on Georges St-Pierre. Super exciting project, super cool project. And so we'd been working on it. I've been talking to George's manager, Rodolphe, and trying to set it up so that we could get in and start to spend some time with George. To do 30 minutes is somewhere between 22 and 23 minutes of actual stuff. This is not a 2-minute thing. And TSN makes high quality, high production stuff. Beautiful shots on the highest quality stuff with great editing, the right music and lighting. It's high end, the highest end I've ever worked around by far. So you need time, So we were like, let's get in with George and get the first couple of days going, get him comfortable. George is comfortable with me, and I'm very comfortable with him. We get along well. I really like George, admire George, obviously. And we got the first couple of days going. And I am telling you, so I spent 2 days with George. I'll give you a couple of the little tidbits of information, whatever I've gathered. First off, dude's a fucking racehorse, like a thoroughbred. Like Georges St-Pierre right now, so quick jump ahead. On the second day, he invited me to do karate, point sparring style training with him. Two karate champions, two world karate champions, and Stefan Dubé, who is an old school sensei, karate champion. And we were able to kind of play a little bit, and I'm able to try to touch them. I couldn't touch them, any of them. George, at one time, I'm trying to swing at him. I'm not exaggerating, this is real. This is not this has really happened. I'm trying to swing lightly. And so point fighting, you're gentle, you're fast, you're touching. And I'll explain to you some of the concepts of why that makes sense for MMA fighters in a second. But you're just touching. So you're not winding up, you're not all tensed up, you're light and loose. And as I was trying to reach him with the touch, he literally just put his arm out and I blew out. And I mean, today is Tuesday, so today is Wednesday. It's 8 days after I point sparred with those guys. The outside of my deltoid just was damaged from him just casually blocking me. Because if you go and you take your arm and you smash it against the wall, it'll probably damage your shoulder. And he was a wall. He was like made of steel. Big, 205 pounds, incredibly powerful. If you just joined me, I'm talking about Georges St-Pierre. I spent 2 days with him. Huge, powerful, carved out of granite. And I watched that guy do 5 training sessions in 2 days, including some mind training, reaction time training. Fascinating stuff. The kind of nerdy shit that I get right into. But I also watched him train his body. I watched him wrestle with the best wrestlers. I mean, like, you know, the Montreal Wrestling Club, the best that we have here in Canada, in America, in you know, Iran, in Germany, in Eastern Europe. I get it. You can use best in different ways. But here, what we have, Montreal Wrestling Club is the very best. And he looked phenomenal. And this was his 5th session in about 36 hours. I saw him doing resistance training. We played point karate with him and a bunch of guys. So I'll tell you point karate one more second. We saw him teaching and doing jiu-jitsu. It was fascinating. I had dinner with him. We shot that. We went for ice cream. We shot that. We went for a lot of cool stuff. These are the first 2 days of what will be, not all with him, but it'll be at least 8 more days of shooting. We're going down to shoot George with Freddie Roach. That's going to be awesome. I promise you, if I'm able, because I'm being employed by then, and my employer, when they're hiring me, is my absolute priority. But if we're able, I will try to see if it's possible to get 5 minutes with Freddie Roach for the channel here. I'm not promising, because when I'm employed by somebody, I'm giving them everything. But we'll get George with Freddie Roach. We'll get Freddie Roach on his own for the documentary. We'll get George with Danaher. We'll get Danaher on his own. We'll get another day with George in Montreal. We'll get Firas. We'll get all the people George grew up with. We're going to get it all for this 30-minute documentary. In Canada, it'll air on TSN, and it'll air on W5. There's always some chance ESPN sometimes has the chance to pick it up. Failing that, it'll be on the web sometime shortly after. I'll keep you all posted, but it's a gift to be able. What I learned from being able to see this, I'm surrounded. I'm lucky enough to be able to go and see the best fighters in the world, but you've never seen much like this. The level of intensity, the focus, and he just snaps right into it. He was coming in for this reaction time training, and oh, hey, good to see you guys, walked right up and immediately was in it. It was wild. His focus is crazy. The shape he's in is crazy. His mindset, his drive. He's very honest with me, too, and that's very nice. And you want to know about work ethic. You want to know about drive. You know, you want to know about the grind. You watch a world champion. You know, you watch Georges St-Pierre, or you watch Dan Cormier. A friend of mine just messaged me, "You're truly living your dream, brothers. Cheers to you." Thank you, my man. I am. I really am. So this is going to be a fascinating documentary. So we wrapped that, and then I left, and I went out to a small little town in Quebec. From there, I got together with my brother Ramdeen, and we commentated TKO. So, yeah. That was amazing. If you haven't seen it, it's TKO 39. It's on Fight Pass. It's the biggest gift. I love sharing, chatting, analyzing. The commentating live fights is the greatest thing in the world to me. You know, it really is. And that's why I want to do that at the highest level one day. I'm 47 years old, but I got time. If I'm 57, I'm going to do it. I'm going to commentate at the highest level. I am. I promise you. I know it. It was a gift. And then Ramdeen and I drove back together, so we got to spend some time. I learned so much, you know, and you learn good and bad things. Like, I've been eating mediocre. You got to learn it when you're traveling this much. You got to learn how to eat right, exercise, get sleep. You know, you're in hotels. You know what's really, really cool? Hotel bars. They're nice, they're glitzy, they're inviting. You got to avoid those. You know, you have those after a big event. You want to stop in a hotel bar and chat, because people traveling all around the world, fascinating people everywhere. So you just can't go there every night. You know, you can't eat shitty food. You can't eat plain food. You can't eat airport food. You got to really get that stuff figured out. So there's a learning curve along the way. You want to be healthy, you know. If you're going to work hard and grind and really push, you got to learn how to adapt and figure out the challenges and the flaws. But so for the next step of any type of commentary or analysis with the UFC. Unknown. But by the next time I see you on Fighting is About Fighting, I'll know where we're at with the next step. But one I can tell you, I am incredibly pumped. So this is a done deal. It's already begun, but I will just clear that I'm allowed to talk about it. But I will be doing full scale, full production, big studio, slick everything, breakdowns of Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. I'm also fucking super pumped to tell you that I will be in Las Vegas from the Tuesday through the Sunday for Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor for a large outlet in Canada, which will also be on the web. You'll be able to find it. We'll share it. We'll make sure people, find it. I will gather what I can around my job. But as I said, when I'm employed by somebody, they will come first. That's the job. That's what they're paying for. But I will find little bits and pieces where I can. If you follow me on Instagram, I'll often gather some moments when we're down there. But I will be covering Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor all week long from Las Vegas, doing 3 to 5 to 7 pieces, hits, analysis, chunk, talk, interview, hangs, whatever, per day all week. And breakdowns, plural, of the fight and everything around the fight. And I'm super pumped. The freedom that we have here, in this art studio to talk about fighting the way we want. I got my dog making fight pics. You know what I'm saying? Got my dog making fight pics. I'm traveling. I was in Korea and Russia and Albuquerque and Dallas twice and Montreal twice and LA and New York and New Jersey, San Diego, all of these places since becoming a freelancer. I made friends with Mark. We love working together. 600,000 people have watched our YouTube channel, and another 100,000 on podcasts, which is so cool. We have human beings that are pledging money to help support us so that we can grow this on Patreon. Thank you for that. And I have done 2 jobs for the UFC.com, and I've made friends with Mr. Kim, who I hope to be a lifetime friend, over in Korea, and done all these interesting things. And the only thing, and I wasn't complaining, my life is incredible. I'm very lucky. But the only thing is just, when can I get back to doing these breakdowns? That's what I love doing. Well, I'm doing it. I'm doing them. And I'm doing them for the biggest, craziest spectacle fight in history. And I'm going down and I'm covering it on a big level. I'll tell you about it on the next one. And I still haven't heard about further UFC stuff yet. I might have that to report too. So life is good. I'm very lucky and I'm very fortunate, and I will always be grateful. And I will never let myself be a dick about it, or think it's deserved, or think it's permanent, or take it for granted. I'll never. The only reason I'm lucky enough to have any of these things happen is, I just love what I do, and I'm dedicated. I work hard, and I'll try and fail, and try again and fail again, and learn, and that's what we got to do. But I'm really happy, man. Fuck. But super pumped now to be doing the breakdowns. Highest level I've ever done them on, by far. Slickest studio, slickest equipment, graphics, everything. So now we have to do it. We have to do it. We have to accept this challenge, and we have to figure out how to do it. Because I can't look you in the face and say that Conor McGregor boxes better than Floyd Mayweather. I can't do that. It's a lie. So I got to find a way to be able to break this down in ways that are truthful, but show that I know that there is that chance. And I'm going to do that. I am going to do that. I am going to do that. And I'm super pumped to do it. So, but it's good to be home. And those of you that hang with me like this, I really do appreciate you so much. I really do. It's so wild that there's somebody that people are interested in some of these ideas and stuff. Really. But I'm pumped, man. Next level. We're next leveling this with these McGregor-Mayweather breakdowns and this Mayweather-McGregor analysis from Vegas. I'll tell you all about it next week, and I'll tell you how that other thing turns out. But it is good to be home. Mark is motioning to me. One sec.
Just one thing. I forgot to mention you on Facebook. Someone reached out to me. Do you remember an MMA fighter named Irish John Sneal?
Mark just asked, Irish John Sneal.
Yeah. Well, he was supposed to fight in Calgary for Hard Knocks MMA.
Yeah.
But the pre-fight physical discovered that he had wolf heart syndrome.
Oh, Irish John Sneal, pre-fight physical for Hard Knocks, wolf heart syndrome. Is that the same thing Dan Hardy has?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So there's a GoFundMe out for. We'll post a link on the YouTube
Okay.
page.
So below in the YouTube page, there will be a link for GoFundMe. Can we do multiple links?
Yeah.
So please go for Irish John. Check out the below in our link for the GoFundMe for Irish John. And we're also going to put one there for the GoFundMe for Tim Hague.
Yes.
Okay? Tim Hague was a friend, and Tim Hague had died on Father's Day doing what he loved, which he wanted to do to take his son to Disney World after. And it's very sad and it's very scary. And every time you go and you get into the arena, it is so exciting. And then there's, and sometimes I forget. So almost hundreds and hundreds of times I've been in these arenas in different capacities, and you just forget because they're so taken aback by everything. And then you see that ambulance come into backstage. You see those guys take that thing off. I've been on that. I've been carried out on the board. I was mostly just embarrassed and stuff, but you don't know if you're hurt. Doctor says you're hurt. You don't know. But so you see that, and it reminds you, oh yeah, this is real. These guys get hurt. You know, these guys are going to get hurt. And that's real. And that's part of it. That's a real part of fighting. But what you don't expect is that someone will die there. And Tim died in there. And that just scares everybody. It's the worst. You know that those things, it has happened before. It will happen again. I don't know, this is probably not the time to talk about it. But there's a lot of like, there's supposed to be a lot of safeguards in there. Commission, there are rules about concussions. There's a lot before you get there. In the fight itself, it's you're there, but and you're in it, and you're fighting with everything that you have. But along the way, before that happens, we're supposed to protect these guys. But we'll maybe talk about that more a little later. But yeah, you know, so Tim's son and his family, there's a GoFundMe. You know, there'll be one for Irish Joe and one for Tim. Neither one is more important or less important. If you're so inclined, just split up whatever you could do and give some to each of them. And pass it around too. And remember when you watch fights, please remember when you watch fights, they are taking risks. They are. It's not, oh, this guy, it's not just a little thing. We see it so often that it's easy to think for a moment, just to get this, oh, it's just another fight. There's 10 more tomorrow night. It's Friday night, Saturday night, Bellator, there's 22 guys will fight. On Sunday, another 20. It's not like that. Every one of them is precious. Every one of them is special. Every one of them is dangerous. Every one of them is a lifetime of specialization and training and becoming who you are, the men and women that you are, all coming together in this moment. Never forget that. And let these types of things remind you of that. And thank you for spending time with me. It really, it's such a gift, and I really mean that. And yeah, it's good to be back. We'll see you guys soon. Blackout. So I know we just blacked out, but Mark was just telling me, Irish John, like I don't know last names, but Irish John was like, he made his debut right around the time I did, but also I trained with him a lot up at Toronto BJJ, and he worked as a striking coach for a little while, and we kind of hung out outside of it. Irish John, I never made the connection, but we just called him Irish. But yes, off camera, Mark was just telling me, so big love to you, Irish John. As he was telling me, I was like, oh yeah, I don't know if I know the guy, but it's sad, please help. But yeah, John is a friend, and we came up together. So I'm sorry to hear that you can't fight, but I'm glad you're healthy. And people help out Irish John, and please give some thought, and if you got any spare, please help out Tim's family. And thank you again. Now we're real out.